ॐ शुक्लां भरतरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु, सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यं करभावहै, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्ज सम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्त प्रतिपत्तये जगदः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्रीपार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन्। हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं। नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटीद्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं। श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशीविभूषितकरात् नभनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने. കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടും ഇറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മന്യനെ പീഡേന്ദത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കുന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to the class. Okay, so we'll just do a quick review of the seventh chapter. Let me see who I had. Geeta K, can you do one half, and then Sudha Jini go half. Next half you can do. You're on mute, Geeta. You're still on mute.
Sir, I have to read the first half, right?
Yeah. So stanzas 1 to 5 of Dasakam 7. Okay. You can go ahead. Yeah.
एवं देवचतुर्दशात्मकजगद्रूपेण जाता पुनः तस्योर्ध्वं खलु निलये जातोऽसि दाता स्वयं यं शंसन्ति हिरण्यगर्भमखिल त्रैलोक्यजीवात्मकम् यो भूत्स्फीटरजो विकारविकसन्नानास्तिस्रक्षा रसः.
Gita, and we put the pause right in the first line after Evam Deva. We pause. Second line after Satya Loka Nilay. So just make sure you are stopping at those points. Okay. You can go to the next one, but just make sure.
सोऽयं विश्वविसर्गदत्तहृदयः सम्पश्यमानः स्वयं बोधं कल्वनवाप्य विषयं चिन्ताकुलस्तस्तिवान् तावत् त्वं जगतां पते तपतपेत्येवं हि वैहायसि. I think I'm not in the correct tune. I think I'm sorry.
That's okay. If
Can
you
you
want, I
please?
can fix it by like it just goes a little bit, at least my pitch is different. Tavatvam jagatam pate
Yeah.
tapatapetevam hi vaihayasim.
वाणीम् एनम् अशिश्रव श्रुतिश्रुतां पूर्वं तप प्रेरणाम् कोऽसौ मामवदत् पुमानिति जलापूर्णे जगन्मण्डले दिक्षुद्वीक्ष्य किमप्यनीक्षितवत वता नीक्षितवता वाक्यार्थम् उत्पश्यता दिव्यं वर्षसहस्रम् अत तपसा तेन त्वम् आराधितः तस्मै दर्शितवानसि स्वनिलयं वैकुण्ठमेकाद्भुतम्.
The third line middle word. Varsha sahasram ata tapasa.
Third line.
Divyam varsha sahasram ata tapasa. Okay.
Yeah. दिव्यं वर्षसहस्रमात तपसा तेन त्वम् आराधितः तस्मै दर्शितवानसि स्वनिलयं वैकुण्ठमेकाद्भुतम्. Sir, இந்த
Yeah.
டியூனே வரமாட்டேங்குது, தப்பு பண்றேன்.
I don't know how to
Sorry.
fix the tune, but
Yeah,
other
yeah.
than the
Something
Maya
wrong.
yatra kadapi no vikurute bhate jagadbyo bahihi.
Okay. माया यत्र कदापि नो विकुरुते भाते जगद्भ्यो बहिः शोकक्रोध विमोह साध साध्व सम्मुखः भावास्तु दूरं गताः सान्द्रानन्दजरी च यत्र परमज्योति प्रकाशात्मके तत्ते धाम विभावितं विजयते वैकुण्ठरूपं विभो यस्मिन्नाम चतुर्भुजा हरिमणि श्यामा वादतात्विशो नानाभूषणरत्नदीपितदिशो विमानालयाः भक्तिप्राप्त तथा विदोनता पदा देव्यन्ति दिव्या जनाः तत्ते धाम निरस्त सर्वशमलं वैकुण्ठरूपं जयेत्.
The third line,
Yeah.
Tatha vidhonnata padaha, comma, okay, divyanti divyajanaha, long E. So just say that the padaha we added a visarga there. Padaha.
Padaha. Okay.
Divyanti divyajanaha.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, you can stop here. Just make sure that comma, you're not stopping where we put the comma. So just make sure you're aligned on where those commas are. Okay. That way we're consistent. Okay. Okay.
And even the tune is not correct, no, sir?
That's okay. Don't worry about the tune too much. It's okay if you're a little bit here and there. When we're saying in a group, normally somebody will lead the tune, so you should be fine. Okay. All right. So that you can continue. Mute your kill, Sudha.
नानादिव्यवधुजनेरभिवृता विधुलतातुल्ययाया विश्वोन्मादान् हृदयगात्रलतया विधोतिता शान्तरा त्वत्पादाम्भुजसौरभैककुतुकात् लक्ष्मी स्वयं लक्ष्यते यस्मिन् विस्मयनीय दिव्य विभवं तते पदं देहि मे.
Fourth line. Bismayaniya.
विस्मयनीय.
Yeah.
यस्मिन् विस्मयनीय दिव्य विभवं तते पदं देहि मे.
And the word last tatte and the last tatte padam dehi me.
तत्ते पदं देहि मे. तत्रैवं प्रतिदर्शिते निजपदे रत्नासन्नाध्यसिद्धं भास्वत्कोटिलसत्किरीटकटका लसत्किरीटकटाख्यकाध्यकल्पदीप्राकृति श्रीवत्साङ्गितम् आतकौस्तुभं मणिच्छायारुणं कारणम् विश्वेषां त्वं रूपमय शतविधिः तते विभो भातु मे.
As fourth line, second word, Vishwesham Tava.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then there's again after that Vidhi, that word is Tatte.
तत्ते विभो भातु. कालाम्भोदकलाय कोमलरुचि चक्रेण चक्रं दिशाम् आवर्णवानम् उदारमन्दहसित स्यन्दप्रसानात्ननम् राजत्कम्बुगधारि पङ्कजधर श्रीमन् भुजामण्डलम्
Srashtustuštikaram.
स्रष्टु सुष्टिकरं वपस्तुव विभो मद्रोगम् उद्वासयेत्. दृष्ट्वा संभृत समभ्रं कमलभूः त्वत्पादपातोरुहे हर्षावेशवशं वदो निपतितः प्रीत्या कृतार्थीर्थभवन्. जानास्येव मनीषितं मम विभो ज्ञानं तथा पादय. द्वैतभक्तस्वरूप परनित्यायाष्टं तं त्वां भजे.
Last line, Dvaita Bhavat Swarupa Param Ityachashta.
Okay, got it. द्वैताद्वैत भवत स्वरूप परमित्याष्टं तं त्वां भजे.
Ityachashta.
इत्याशष्ट.
Yeah. Ityachashta.
Correct.
Correct.
त्वां
Ityachashta tam
भजे.
bhaji. Yeah.
आताम्रे चरणे विनम्रमथतं हस्तेन हस्ते स्पृशान् बोधस्ते भविता न सर्गविधिभिः बन्धोभिः सञ्चायते. इत्याभाष्य गिरं प्रतोष्य नितरां तच्चित् गूढस्वयं सृष्टोतं समुदैर्य स भगवन् उल्लासयोलालध्यताम्
Ullasa
अघता उल्लासय
Ullasayolaghatam.
उल्लासयोलघताम्.
Then the fourth line, also the middle word, Samudaira Yes Sa Bhagavan.
समुदैर्यस्य समुदैर्यः स
Illa, illa.
भगवन्.
Samudaira Yes Sa Bhagavan.
Okay. समुदैर्यस्य भगवन्.
Yeah. Yes Sa Bhagavan. Not Sya. Yes Sa Bhagavan.
Yes, Bhagavan.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. I start with 8. 8 should be relatively easy. Let me see who I had. Any people I wanted are not on the call yet. Okay. Shalini, you can be a student, and Gomati, you can be a student. Okay. So Dashakam 8 is two topics here. Pralaya Varnanam and then Jagat Shrishti Prakara Varnanam, creation of the universe, a continuation. So up to 9, a little bit is going to be actually 9 becomes a little bit, yeah, up to 9 is end of 9 is going to be a little bit theoretical. From 10, it will become much more non-theoretical stuff will start coming, right? So stanza 1. Evam tavat prakrita prakshayante brahme kalpe hyadime labdha janma brahma bhuyastvatta evapyavedan srishtim chakre purva kalpopamanam. So multiple of these stanzas, they try to explain the concept of time. Okay, so it's easy. So I'm going to explain it all upfront, so it's easy to follow the rest of that. So if you all have the image I posted in WhatsApp, right? If you have that image open in front of you, then I will walk you through how the concept of time is defined, right? And the concept of time in Bhagavatam, it goes into like something which is like a fraction of a second also, but we are not going to worry about all of that. We're just going to start with like a human year as a base, right? So the as you all know, we have 4 yugas, right? Which is, you see, Satya Yuga, or also called as Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. So the Kali Yuga timeline is 432,000 years. Okay. And I will tell you later on where we are in that Kali Yuga. So you don't have to worry about the Kali Yuga coming to an end yet, at least in this life of ours. So Kali Yuga is 432,000 years. Dwapara Yuga is 2x of that years. So it's 864. So if you keep Kali Yuga as x in mathematical formula, Dwapara Yuga is 2x. Treta Yuga is 3x. So 432 times 3. And Satya Yuga is 432 times 4. So that's why it's 1.7 million years is Satya Yuga or Krita Yuga. You take all of this set of 4 yugas, one set of these 4 yugas together, it is called as one Chatur Yuga. 4 Chatur is 4. So 4 yugas combined, right? So you add that 432, which is x. So, the 2 times x, 3 times x, 4 times x, right? So 9 times x. So 432 times 9, okay, approximately, or 10, or it comes to about 4.3 million. So the 4.3 million years is called as one Chatur Yuga. Now, you multiply that by 1,000. Okay. So Abhirami is our math expert, so I'm not going to get into the math calculation here. So 4.32 million years times 1,000, okay, which is times 1,000 Chatrugas, is called as one kalpa. Okay. Now that word kalpa that is the day of Brahma. Okay. So the 1,000 Chaturyugas is one day of Brahma. Okay, that's why in that one kalpa, if you look at that sheet, I think it is 4.32 billion. I'm assuming. I'm not sure if it's all so many zeros, lost track of millions, billions, and trillions, but I think it's 4.32 billion. So that 4. That is the one day of Brahma. Now, when Brahma was going to come, who we just saw, who got created or who came out last time, right, last class, when that Brahma he's a CEO right now, right? He's been delegated this whole universe for creation. So what Brahma does is he says, I cannot manage all of this in one shot. So I'm going to divide it. Okay. And I'm going to divide it into like 14 parts or 14 times the whole timeline. And each of that I'm going to assign an owner who's going to take care of everything for me. That the 4.32 billion, when you divide by 14, it comes to approximately 71. Okay. So each of that is called as one manvantara. So one manvantara, you take that whole 1 day of Brahma, you divide it into 14. Each of that 14 is called as one manvantara. Each of that manvantara is managed by a Manu. We will see who Manu is. That's going to come only in the 9th Dashakam. But so that the whole day of Brahma, you divide into 14, is called as one manvantara. So 1 day of Brahma has about 17 or like 14 things that is there. Each Manu has 71 Chaturyugas. That's a calculation you're seeing there. What is considered as a day of Brahma, which is that one kalpa, there's an equal amount of time, which is called as night. Now, Brahma doesn't have a concept of day or night like we have, but I will explain later on in this session what is Brahma's day and what is Brahma's night. But for very human understanding, you assume Brahma's day, Brahma's night. Okay. So in the human terms on this, you take that 4.32 billion years, you add another 4.32 billion human years, 8.64 billion years is the whole 24 hours for Brahma, like how we see 24 hours. Either you multiply by 30, you multiply by 3, 6, into 12 for the whole year, and then you multiply into 100. It goes into a ridiculous amount of zeros. That is the entire lifetime of a Brahma. So, like I said, everybody in this Brahmandam has a start date and an end date. So, this Brahma also, this 8.64 billion, that was day and night of Brahma, times 360, which is 1 year of Brahma, times 100, which is 100 years of Brahma, is considered the life of Brahma. Okay. So there are going to be two types of pralayas which are going to get introduced. Okay. We use the word pralayam very loosely. There are two types of pralayam which is going to get introduced. There's a pralayam which happens at the end of the day of each day of Brahma. There is a pralayam. So we are in Kali Yuga right now. All those 4 yugas joined is one Chaturyugas. 1,000 of those Chaturyugas is only 1 day of Brahma. At the end of those 1,000 Chaturyugas, one pralayam is going to happen. That is called as Naimittika pralayam, which is a temporary pralayam. And then at the end of the 100 years of Brahma is something called as a Prakritika pralayam, which is the entire thing is getting devastated. Which is a full pralayam, right? Those are two things which are going to happen. This little bit details are going to come later. So it's very difficult to understand all these timelines. So you can just reference that, right? You can reference that as an example. So later on, I will tell you the sankalpam we do, right? Mamopata, Samasta, Vritakshedvara, and the sankalpam we do, how all of these things comes in there. But also, as you go up, you remember we spoke about the 14 planetary worlds, right? So we spoke about, the worlds which are above us, right? Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and all of them. As you keep going up from the Bhuloka, the concept of time changes. Like how Brahma's 1 day is 4.32 billion human years, because we are at the middle. Brahma is a Satyaloka at the top, right? So similarly, when you start going into the Pitraloka and the Deva Loka, the time also changes, right? So that's why in the concept, so when we do like Amavasya Tarpanam, right, for people who do Tarpanam, so 1 month of hours is 1 day in the Pitriloka. So when you do Tarpanam every month, right, you are actually doing for every day of the Pitriloka. In the Deva Varsham, which is where the demigods are there, Indra and others, demigods, 1 year for us is equivalent to approximately 1 day for them. So as you go up as you go up these worlds, the relative definition of time changes. So these are defined in terms of human years, so we can understand, right? So when they say one Deva Varsham, when they say it is equivalent, or 1 day of Devas is equivalent to 1 year for us. 1 day of Pitras is equivalent to 1 month for us, right? 1 day of Brahma is equal to 4.32 billion years for us. Right? So that is how it actually happens. Okay. So that is the concept of time that is actually defined very beautifully. As you go up, the relative definition of time is going to change. And there are going to be few examples I'm going to give you later on as we go into Narayaneeyam, where there are some people who will end up going to Brahma Loka. and then they'll come back. They'll stay in Brahmaloka only for a fraction of a second. But by the time they come back to Earth, like millions and billions of years would have already passed off on Earth, right? Multiple things would have happened on Earth by the time they come back. So that is how this is explained. So anyway, so that is the general concept, right, for you to understand. Now, this chapter is first going to start off by saying that all the things we spoke last time in terms of the creation of the cosmos, all of it was from the time a new Brahma is coming, which means the previous Brahma's 100 life is done. So Brahma also is a post. Brahma is not a name, it's a title. All of these are titles. Okay. So anybody can become Brahma. You can become a Brahma. There's a definition in Vedas of how you can become a Brahma if you want, but it's very, very hard. So, so the previous Brahma's reign came to an end. The new Brahma came in the previous Dasakam. So that was, we saw what happens at the end of the Prakritika Pralaya when nothing was there. And then Bhagavan created that Hiranyandam, Brahmandam. He went in, he broke it into 14 words, the Virat Purusha we saw. And then we saw you came as Hiranya Garbha. You came as the Brahma, right? That was the first. And then Brahma didn't know what he heard, Tapa, right? That was the first day of the first year of that Brahma. So he's a newborn baby then, right? This is the first day for him. So that was what that is. Now, Brahma doesn't go through an evolution like we go as children, but I'm just saying it's his first day. So that is how that started. So this one says, so at the end of the Prakritika Pralaya, when the first Kalpa is called as Brahma Kalpa. That is just the name of the Kalpa. Kalpa, remember, is 1 day for Brahma. So that is the first day. So the first day is called as Brahma Kalpa. So he says, "O Brahma, in that Brahma Kalpa, you came into existence, right? And then you got the knowledge, right? And then you continue to do everything in every Kalpa. We'll see what he does in every Kalpa. So this is just starting off by defining the time and saying this is the first day of Brahma. Hopefully it's pretty clear. At least what I said is clear. At least you can look at the chart. If you have any questions, just ask specifically only on those topics, nothing else. So on the calculations alone. Evam tavat prakrita prakshayante, comma, brahme kalpe hyadime labdha janma brahma bhuyas tvatta evapya vedan, comma, srishtim chakre purva kalpopamanam. So he then begins to create the universe like how he has done before. Evam tavat prakrita prakshayante brahme kalpe hyadime labdha janma brahma bhuyastvatta evapya vedan srishtim chakre purva kalpopamanam.
एवं तावत् प्रकृता प्रक्षयान्ते ब्राह्मे कल्पे ह्यादिमे लब्धजन्म ब्रह्मा भूयस्त्वत्व एवाप्यवेदान् सृष्टिं चक्रे पूर्वकल्पोपमानाम् एवं तावत् प्रकृता प्रक्षयान्ते
And it's prakrita, yeah.
एवं तावत् प्राकृत प्रक्षयान्ते ब्रह्मे कल्पे ह्यादिमे लब्धजन्म ब्रह्मा भूयस्त्वत्व एवाप्यवेदान् सृष्टिं चक्रे पूर्वकल्पोपमानाम्.
So in the second line, first word, brahme kalpe.
ब्राह्मे कल्पे ह्यादिमे लब्धजन्म.
एवं तावत् प्राकृतप्रक्षयान्ते ब्राह्मे कल्पे ह्रादिमे लब्धजन्म ब्रह्मा भूयस्त्वत्त एवाप्यवेदान् सृष्टुं चक्रे पूर्वकल्पोपमानाम् एवं तावत् प्राकृतप्रक्षयान्ते ब्राह्मे कल्पे ह्रादिमे लब्धजन्म ब्रह्मा भूयस्त्वत्त एवाप्यवेदान् सृष्टिं चक्रे पूर्वकल्पोपमानाम्.
Answer 2. Soyam chatur yuga sahasramitanyahani tavan mitascharajanir bahusho ninhaya nidratya sautvai niliya samam swasrishtaihi naimittika pralayama huratosya ratrim. A little bit, whatever I explained, is just explaining in more, is just continue explanation, saying that Chatur Yuga Chaturyuga, four yugas together. Chaturyuga Sahasra. So thousands of those Chaturyugas is that one day of Brahma. Equal duration of that is his night. At night, because we understand human terms, it says Brahma goes to sleep. We will cover that specifically what Brahma does. Brahma doesn't sleep like how we do. So he says that night period of Brahma, where nothing is happening, is called as Naimittika Pralaya. So in this Naimittika Pralaya, what happens is, see, the 14 worlds which are there, like I said, it's by consciousness, you keep it as, they're in some level, right? It goes from bottom to top. So from the very bottom, there is like, severe heat which comes, which burns all the bottom planetary systems, right? And then the entire systems get wiped out. So the way to think of it is the bot in the Naimittika Pralaya, which is at the end of every day of Brahma, the bottom worlds, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, which is the bottom 7 worlds, are completely wiped out. Okay? The Bhuloka, which is the earthly plane, is also completely destroyed. The Bhuvar Loka, which is one level above, is also completely destroyed. The Suvar Loka, which is where, the Indra Loka is, where the demigods are, which is Swargam, what we call very loosely. But Suvar Loka, that is also completely destroyed. So all of these 10 worlds out of the 14 layers, 10 of them are completely wiped out. That they cease to exist. Okay, they just burn. It's just dissolved completely. The top 4 worlds physically still exist. Okay, however, the beings which are in those top worlds, so like we are going to see a lot of people come, like Sanaka, Sanatana, the Narada, all of them are going to come, which are great rishis and Brahma who exist in those top worlds. They physically don't die, or they physically don't get wiped out like we get wiped out, but then they don't do anything. It's like kind of putting you at night, you shut your computer down, right? And then you go off, you put it in sleep mode, right? Which means that you can always open your computer and you can instantly start it. Like MacBook, you press a button and it's going to start. But at that time, when you put it in sleep mode, it didn't completely shut down. So there's no shutdown happening in simple terms, right? When you shut down, all the processing stops in the computer. Similarly here, those top 4 worlds goes into a snooze mode. Okay, they don't do anything. We'll see what they actually end up doing, but that's what is happening in that Naimittika Pralaya, which is what he's saying. So that Naimittika Pralaya, which is happening at the end of the day of the Brahma, the bottom 10 worlds are completely wiped out. And then the rest of the 4 worlds exist, but it is considered as a night time, because in night time, we don't do anything. We just sleep, right? So that's what it says. Nothing is happening, but they continue to exist. Soyam Chatur Yuga Sahasra Mitanya Hani, comma, Tavan Mitascha Rajanir Bahusho Ninaya Nidratyasau Tvai Niliya Samam Swasrishtaihi. Add a visargan comma. Next line, the ir goes away. Naimittika Pralayam. I'm just breaking at that in there. Pralayam Ahuratosya Ratrim. Soyam Chatur Yuga Sahasra Mitanyahani Tavan Mitascha Rajanir Bahusho Ninaya Nidratya Sautvai Niliya Samam Swasrishtaihi Naimittika Pralayama Huratosya Ratrim.
सोऽयं चतुर्युगसहस्रमितान्यहानि तावन्मिताश्च रजनीर्बहुशो निनाय निद्रात्यसौ त्वयि निलीय समं स्वसृष्टैः नैमित्तिकप्रलयमहूरतोऽस्य रात्रिम्.
Pralayam Ahuratosya Ratrim.
प्रलयम् आहुरोतस्य. Okay. सोऽयं चतुर्युगसहस्रमितान्यहानि तावन्मिताश्च रजनीर्बहुशो निनाय निद्रात्यसौ त्वयि निलीय समं स्वसृष्टैः नैमित्तिका प्रलयम् आहूरतोऽस्य रात्रिम्.
सोऽयं चतुर्युगसहस्रमितान्यहानि तावन्मिताश्च रजनीर्बहुशो निनाय निद्रात्यसौ त्वयि निलीय समं स्वसृष्टैः नैमित्तक नैमित्त
Naimittika.
Okay, thank you. नैमित्तिकप्रलयमा आहुरतोऽस्य रात्रिम् सोऽयं चतुर्युगसहस्रमितान्यहानि तावन्मिता च रजनीर्बहुशो निनाय निद्रात्यसौ त्वयि निलीय समं स्वसृष्टैः नैमित्तिकप्रलयमा आहुरतोऽस्य रात्रिम्.
That's a three. अस्मादृशां पुनरहर्मुखकृत्य तुल्यां सृष्टिं करोत्यनुदिनं स भवत्प्रसादात् प्राग्ब्राह्मकल्पजनुषां च परायुषां तु सुप्तप्रबोधनसमास्ति तदापि सृष्टिः. So it goes a little bit more into the detail on that night of Brahma, right? So there are, not to get too technical around the names, but there are different kind. When you use the word Vishnu, we use it very generally as Vishnu, but there are different types of Vishnus who are there, right? So one is the primary one from whom multiples of this universe has come, the Brahmandam that we spoke about, right? Those constantly universes are getting created, universes are getting destroyed, each of them having different structure and different Brahma and everything. You pick one universe that we only know about, the universe we live in, which is everything that is there in that 14 worlds. That 14 worlds which we saw the description in the previous Dasakam. That 14 worlds has one Brahma who is the creator for that universe. And then that universe also has a Vishnu from whom we're going to see every day something is going to happen. So that Vishnu is called as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, because the bottom of this 14 worlds is something called as a Garbhodaka ocean. The word ocean or water is used very loosely here. It just means unmanifested matter that is there. Nothing is taking shape or anything. So each of this universe has a deity who's the creator, a deity who's preserving it, and all of that stuff. And there are multiple such universes, right? So in this universe that we live in, which has got those 14 worlds, at the night of Brahma, what is happening is the top 4 worlds still has beings. It has beings like Brahma, Narada, Chiranjeevis like Markandeya, all of them who are there. So they all, essentially, everything gets absorbed back into this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. The bottom, when we say the bottom 10 worlds disappear, the 10 worlds doesn't just disappear into thin air, right? It's like when winter comes, all your plants go off, right? Outside plants you put, but then the seed still exists. Next year it springs back up, right? Same concept is going to apply. It is there, it's just not visible, right? So it goes into that Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And Brahma, when he says Brahma goes to sleep, all it means is there's nothing happening. When you sleep, what happens? Your body is still functioning, but you are not doing anything, right? Same thing is happening. Brahma continues to exist, but there's no creation that is happening, no destruction that is actually happening, and it is just stillness that is continues to exist during that night period. Then, when the next day starts, right, which is the next day begins, the beings who are all Chiranjeevis, people who are going to live for a long amount of time, including Brahma, they come back as if it is morning for you. So that is how it is beautifully explained, is what happens when your morning comes. When your morning comes, you begin your routine again. You're going to go get the kids ready. You're going to go do your work. The same routine. Brahma also, same routine happens, right? The next day morning, when his kalpa gets over, next morning he gets up. He has to begin the process of creation because the bottom 10 worlds are destroyed. So we'll see how he goes about the process of creation. The Chiranjeevis like Markandeya who they wake up, which means they come back into existence again. They still retain the memory of what happened the previous kalpa, like how we remember what happened yesterday, right? And then they continue. But the night period, that period, absolutely nothing is happening again. So it says that cycle then continues to repeat each kalpa of Brahma. Asmadrisham punarahar mukha kritya tulyam, srishtim karotyanudinam sa bhavat prasadat. Again, every time it says bhavat prasadat. Nothing will happen without your will to actually, for that to actually happen. So your blessings, this happens. Bhavat prasada. Prag Brahma Kalpa Janusham Cha Parayusham Tu, comma, Supta Prabodhana Samasti Tadapi Srishtihi. So hold on, they all just as if they're waking up, the next day is going to continue. Asmadrisham punarahar mukhakritya tulyam srishtim karotyanudinam sabhavat prasadat prag brahma kalpa janusham cha parayusham tu supta prabodhana samasti tadapi srishtihi.
अस्मादृशां पुनरहर्मुखकृता कृत्या तुल्यां सृष्टिं करोत्यनुदिनं स भवत्प्रसादात् प्राग्ब्रह्मकल्पजनुषां च परायुषां तु सुप्तप्रबोधनसमास्ति तदापि सृष्टिः.
The third line, prag brahma kalpa.
प्राग्ब्राह्मकल्प अस्मादृशां पुनरहर्मुखकृत्या तुल्यां सृष्टिं करोत्यनुदिनं स भवत्प्रसादात् प्राग्ब्राह्मकल्पजनुषां च परायुषां तु सुप्तप्रबोधनसमस्ति तदापि सृष्टिः.
अस्मादृशां पुनरहर्मुखकृत्य तुल्यां सृष्टिं करोत्यनुदिनं स भवत्प्रसादात् प्राग्भ्रामकल्पजनुषां च परायुषां तु सुप्तप्रबोधनसमास्ति तदापि सृष्टिः. अस्मादृशां पुनरहर्मुखकृत्य तुल्यां सृष्टिं करोत्यनुदिनं स भवत्प्रसादात् प्राग्भ्रामकल्पजनुषां च परायुषां तु सुप्तप्रबोधनसमास्ति तदापि सृष्टिः.
पञ्चाशदब्धमधुना स्ववयोर्धरूपम् एकं परार्धमतिवृत्य हि वर्तते सौ तत्रान्त्यरात्रिजनितान् कथयामि भूमन् पश्चाद्दिनावतरणे च भवद्विलासान्. So all these Chiranjeevis and everybody who I said who exist, right? And even in the fourth Dashakam, I spoke about how when the soul exits and then you're getting liberated, you have two choices for liberation. One is you fully get liberated, right? Or you want to go in this Krama Mukti, Videha Mukti. We saw two types of Mukti. One of them is you go stay in all the upper worlds and then you eventually go stay in Satyaloka. So all of those things get merged into Brahma at the end of Brahma's day, and then in Brahma's night, Brahma himself goes back into this Garbhodaka Shahi Vishnu, and then he's going to come back again. But everybody else is, all the bottom worlds are wiped out. Now, we don't know anything of what happened in the earlier days of Brahma. Okay, so here this stanza is saying this whole 100 years of Brahma is called as Dvipararda. Okay, one pararda is 50 years. Okay, so the first pararda, Pratama pararda, Dvitiya pararda. Dvipararda means two parardas. So here, when you all do your sankalpam, right? So it says, now Mama Upata, you all might remember this, Mama Upata Samasta Durutakshadvara Shri Parameshwara Prityartham, and then you say Adya Brahmanaha, right? The current Brahma, who is actually the creator, who is actually there. Dvitiya pararthe. That's the next word that comes. What that does mean means the current Brahma, who is the creator, first you are in Sankalpam, you first say the time and you give your location in space. So he says Dvitiya Pararthe means I am in the second 50 years of this Brahma. Okay. In the second, which means Brahma has completed 50 years already. He's in the second 50 of the current Brahma is in the second of his 50. Dvitiya Pararthe, Shweta Varaha Kalpe. So Kalpa is what? The day of Brahma, right? So Shweta Varaha Kalpe here is the Kalpa of Brahma, where Bhagavan came in the form of a Shweta Varaha, as a white boar. So it's called Shweta Varaha Kalpe, which is the first day of the 51st year of Brahma. So the previous night, Brahma celebrated his 50th birthday, is got over. The next day is 51st year of Brahma. In the 51st year of Brahma, we are on the first day, Shweta Varaha Kalpe. Okay. Now, I said a kalpa gets divided into 14 manvantaras. Each one has a Manu who is a ruler. In that, we are in Vaivaswata Manvantare. So, we are in the 7th Manu of the 14 Manus who make that one day of Brahma. Okay. In that 14th Vaivaswata Manu, first Manu is going to be called Swayambhuva Manu. We're going to see about all of those things later. So, right now, we are in the Vaivaswata Manu, who is the 7th Manu in that day of Brahma. In that 7th Manu, Vaivaswata Manu, we are Ashtabimshati Tame. So each Manu, remember, has 71 Chaturyugas. Right? One Chaturyuga is all the 4 yugas. Yes, 71 Chaturyugas. Then Ashtabimshati Tame, when the 28th of that 71 Chaturyugas of this Vaivaswata Manu, in the Ashtabimshati Tame, we are in Kali Yuga. So in the 28th Chaturyuga, we are in the Kali Yuga. In that Kali Yuga, we are in Pratame Padhe. So we are only in the first 1/4 of that Kali Yuga. So we have a long way to go before Naimittika Pralayam is going to come and wipe all of us out. Okay. So that's what this, and I'll send this later to you for you all to reference. So that is the Sankalpam we do, right? Adya Brahmanaha, Dvitiya Pararte, Shweta Varaha Kalpe, Vaivaswata Manvantare, Ashtavinshaditame, Kali Yuge, Pratame Pade. Then you go into Jambu Dvipe, Krauncha Dvipe, which is talking about the location of where you are in the context of the 14 worlds, which is there. And for those of us who do, Avniya Mattam, we talk about Atala, Sutala, Talatala, all these worlds come because it says in relative to all these worlds where I am, right? So it talks about the physical, spatial location of where you are because that's the Mahasankalpam that you do anyway. So this is talking about now. He says, Bhattripad is saying here, because this is what Bhagavan is also going to say is, I am now, everything I'm going to tell from here on, from this stanza, is only about that first day of the 51st year of Brahma. Because I don't know what happened in the previous days and years of Brahma. Nobody knows. That is not documented at all because there's so many years, right? So every avataram that we are going to see later, which is Matsya avataram, Narasimha avataram, Krishna avataram, all are happening on the first day of the 51st year of Brahma. So that is a reference point. I'm going to talk about all of that going forward, right? That is a reference point on this. So Panchashat Abdham, just breaking at the da there. Panchashat Abdham Adhuna Swa Vayordha Rupam, put a im at the end of that line, comma. Next, Mekam becomes Ekam. Ekam Parardham Ativritya, breaking at that ma. Parardham Ativritya hi vartate sau. Tatrantya Ratri Janitan Kathayami Bhuman, comma. Paschat Dinavatarane cha Bhavat Vilasan. Panchashadabdhamaduna Svavayordharupam Ekam Parardham Ativritya hi vartate sau. Tatrantya Ratri Janitan Kathayami Bhuman Paschadinavatarane cha Bhavat Vilasan.
Panchashadabdhamadhuna स्ववयोर्धरूपम् एकं परार्धम् अतिवृत्य हि वर्तते शौ तत्रान्त्यरात्रिजनितान् कथयामि भूमन् पश्चाद्दिना वतारणे च भवद्विलासान्
Last word. Paschadinavatarane.
पश्चाद्दिनावतरणे च भवद्विलासान् पञ्चाशदब्धमधुना स्ववयोरोद्धरूपम् एकं परार्धम अतिवृत्य हि वर्तते शौ तत्रान्त्य रात्रिजनितान् कथयामि भूमन् पश्चाद्दिनावतरणे च भवद्विलासान्
पञ्चाशदब्धमधुना स्ववयोन्दरूपम् एकं परार्धम् अतिवृत्य हि वर्तते सौ तत्रान्त्रयात्रिजनितान् कथयामि भूमन् पश्चाद्दिनावतरणे च भवद्विलासन्
Vilasan.
विलासान् पञ्चाशदब्दमधुना स्ववयोर्धरूपम् एकं परार्धम् अतिवृत्य हि वर्तते सौ तत्रान्त्यरात्रिजनितान् कथयामि भूमन् पश्चाद्दिनावतरणे च भवद्विलासान्.
We'll switch. It's almost halfway, but the rest of the stanzas will go much faster in terms of meaning. So, Kalpana, you can be a student, and Shreya, you can be a student. So that's why I always joke, saying that in the movies when they show Brahma, with having a lot of white hair, with a lot of beard, white beard. He's only 50 years old, in his half lifespan only. He's not that old that he has to have so much gray hair and beard. But anyway, stanza 5. दिनावसानेत सरोजयोनिः सुषुप्तिकामस्त्वयि सन्निलिल्ये जगन्ति च त्वज्झठरं समीयुः तदेदमेकार्णवमास विश्वम्. So because he's going to now say, I'm going to start telling what is going to happen on the first day of the 51st year of Brahma. You always start with what happened the previous night, just so that you can start fresh, right? So which is going to be a repeat of what we already heard. So he says, like every night of Brahma, the same thing is going to happen. He's going to go to sleep, right? So he says, when the end of the previous day of Brahma happens, when his night is coming, then at that time, every being that was there in the top four worlds merges into Brahma. And this Brahma, along with the bottom four worlds which got destroyed, all get into Tvajhataram Samiyuhu. All of them get into your stomach. Oh, Bhagavan. No, doesn't mean there's Bhagavan has a stomach where everything goes in. It just means that everything goes into you, right? Like I said, this is Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who's at the very bottom, from whom everything is going to come again. He doesn't have a stomach like how we think of a stomach, but it just means it all goes into you. It all exists again, like it says, Sushupti Kamas. When you're desiring to go to sleep, you also, Bhagavan, nothing happens. You also desire to pause all activity, which is kind of what we saw. So they all exist in a subtle form, in an unmanifested form in Bhagavan at the end of the previous night of Brahma. So that's where we're going to start and then go from there. Dinavasaneta Saroja Yonihi, Sushupti Kamas Tvai Sannililye Jaganti cha Tvach Jhataram Samiyuhu. Add a visargan comma. Next time, if you have a is, that goes away. Tadedam, breaking at that ma. Tadedam ekarnavamasa vishwam. Dinha vasaneta sarojayonihi sushuptikamastvai sannililye jaganti cha tvajjataram samiyuhu tadedame karnavamasa vishwam.
दिनावसानेत सरोजयोनिः सुसुप्तिकामस्त्वयि सन्निलीले जयन्ति त्वज्जठरं समीयुः तदेयमेकार्णवमास विश्वम्.
Kalpana, third line, first word, Jaganti.
Jayanti. Okay. Yeah. दिनावसानेत सरोजयोनिः सुषुप्तिकामस्त्वयि सन्निलीले जयन्ति च
Jaganti.
Okay. जगन्ति च त्वज्जठरं समीयुः तदेयमेकार्णवमास विश्वम्.
दिनावसानेत सरोजयोनिः सुषुप्तिकामस्त्वयि सन्निलये जगन्ति च त्वजत्तरं समीयुः तदेदमेकर्णवमास विश्वम्.
Shreya, third line, Tvaj, Tvaj, okay? Tvaj, Jataram. Jataram, tha.
Tvajataram.
Yeah.
दिनावसानेत सरोजयोनिः सुषुप्तिकामस्त्वयि सन्निलये जगन्ति च त्वज्जठरं समीयुः तदेदमेकर्णवमास विश्वम्.
Stanza 6. Tavaiva veshe phanirajisheshe जलैकशेषे भुवने स्मशेषे आनन्दसान्द्रानुभवस्वरूपः स्वयोगनिद्रा परिमुद्रितात्मा. So at the time, at the night of Brahma, when there's absolutely no activity is actually happening, everything is just on a state of like calmness because nothing is actually happening. You alone, like very similar, no, it's a little difficult to understand, but you have to separate out the original creation of the cosmos, which Bhagavan did when nothing was there and Bhagavan alone was there, and then the Hiranyandam formed. That is different from here because here the Brahmandam, the outer layers all exist. Only the things inside of that has gotten wiped out, right? So, but you still in that Brahmandam, like I said, there's a Garbhodakashayi Vishnu who exists. So that now he's going to talk about that Vishnu, not the Vishnu who's there in Vaikuntham, which Brahma saw earlier. That's different. So here he says, you Vishnu are lying on this Adi Shesha. That's where Shesha is coming. You are in a state of Yoga Nidra. Like in Vishnu Sahasranam, it says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha. So, Yoga Ishwara, you are the Ishwara of the yogas. So, you are in a state of yogic sleep. That's the word that is used. Doesn't mean again Bhagavan is sleeping. When you say Yoga Nidra, doesn't mean he's sleeping. It just means that nothing is happening. He's just resting, right? Which means no activity is happening, nothing. So, it's just if nothing is there, everything is in a state of calm. So, you alone existed there at that point. No chemical reactions are happening in the universe which are forming planets and destroying planets. In this, nothing of that sort is actually happening. It is just nothingness. Just whatever is there is still there, but nothing new is getting created, nothing is getting destroyed, right? That is a state in which it is at the night. Tavaiva veshe phani raji sheshe, jalaika sheshe bhuvane sma sheshe, आनंद सांद्रानुभव स्वरूपः, स्वयोग निद्रा परिमुद्रितात्मा. तवैव वेशे फणिराजिशेषे जलैकशेषे भुवने स्मशेषे आनंद सांद्रानुभव स्वरूपः स्वयोग निद्रा परिमुद्रितात्मा.
तवैव वेशे फणिराजिशेषे जलैकशेषे भुवने स्म शेषे आनन्दसान्द्रानुभवस्वरूपः स्वायोग स्वायोग
स्वयोग स्वयोग
स्वयोगनिद्रा परिमुद्रितात्मा. तवैव वेशी फणिराजिशेषे जलैकशेषे भुवने स्म शेषे आनन्दसान्द्रानुभव स्वरूपः स्वायोगनिद्रा परिमुद्रितात्मा.
Kalpana, you are saying swa, it's just swayoga.
Swa. Okay.
तवैव वेशे पनिराजिशेषे चलैकशेषे भुवने स्म शेषे आनन्दसान्द्रानुभवस्वरूपः स्वयोगिनिद्रा परिमुद्रितात्मा.
स्वयोग निद्रा.
स्वयोगिनिद्रा परिमुद्रितात्मा. तवैव वेशे पनिराजिशेषे चलैकशेषे भुवने स्म शेषे आनन्दसान्द्रानुभवस्वरूपः स्वयोगिनिद्रा परिमुद्रितात्मा.
Stanza 7. कालाख्य शक्तिं प्रलयावसाने प्रबोधयेत्यादिशता किलादौ त्वया प्रसुप्तं परिसुप्तशक्तिव्रजेन तत्राखिल जीवधाम्ना. So it's like at night. I generally give these references, but you should not literally take the examples I give it that way because I'm just telling it for ease of understanding, right? So at night, you have certain PowerPoint files open, Word documents open, you put your computer to sleep. Next morning, when you start your computer, what happens? Those things continue, right? Those documents still continue to exist and you can continue to work on it, right? Very similarly, if you or your soul still happens to have a lot of karma still left when when the end of the day of Brahma is coming, you get absorbed into it, and we all go into that Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. That karma doesn't get wiped away. The next morning when it happens, all the souls, everybody who still has pending karma, have to start continue from where you left off, right? Just like how you have to continue your work from where you left off in the morning when you start your laptop from sleep mode, which is what is happening. Everything that is there, when it has gone into you, when the next morning happens, it all continues from where it left off, because it was just in a state of rest. Now, how that happens, it says, like how we keep alarm clock to wake up in the morning on a work day, it says time. The time also is an instrument of Bhagavan. In Bhagavatam, it very describes that the concept of time itself cannot exist without Bhagavan being there. It is just his instrument. So when the appropriate time gets over, which is the same amount of kalpa, the same amount of kalpa happens at night. When that time gets over, it's an automatic alarm clock. The next cycle starts, which is the next day is going to start. The night, equal amount of time, night gets over, the next time day starts. It says, just like how an alarm clock wakes all of us up, that process, the next process of creation or the morning process, is going to get triggered. And then we'll see what happens in that morning. Kalakya Shaktim. So it says, because of the power of time, the appropriate time comes, things automatically happen. All of this goes in a very structured way. Nothing of this is random, right? It's not like one day kalpa is X years, next day kalpa is Y years. It's all exactly the same amount. It all goes in a very structured way. Kalakya Shaktim Pralayavasane, Prabhodayetya Dishata. Cannot break that word, so you have to say it together. Prabhodayetya Dishata Kiladau Tvaya Prasuptam Parisupta Shakti. Then put a plus. Brajena Tatrakhila Jivadhamna. So the last two lines together. Kalakya Shaktim Pralayavasane प्रबोधयेत्यादिशता किलादौ त्वया प्रसुप्तं परिसुप्तशक्तिव्रजेन तत्राखिलजीवधाम्ना.
कालाख्यशक्तिं प्रलयावसाने प्रबोधयत्यादिशताखिलादौ त्वया प्रसुप्तं परिसुप्तशक्तिव्रजेन तत्राखिलजीवदाम्ना. कालाख्यशक्तिं प्रलयावसाने प्रबोधयत्यादिशताखिलादौ त्वया प्रसुप्तं परिसुप्तशक्तिव्रजेन तत्रखिल जीवदाम्ना.
कालाख्यशक्तिं प्रलयावसाने प्रबोधयेत्यादिशता किलादौ त्वया प्रसुप्तं परिषिप्तशक्तिव्रजेन तत्र किल जीवदाम्ना. कालाख्यशक्तिं प्रलयावसाने प्रबोधयेत्यादिशता किलादौ त्वया प्रसुप्तं परिषिप्तशक्तिव्रजेन तत्र किल जीवदाम्ना.
Answer 8. Chaturyuganam cha sahasramevam tvayi prasupte punar advitiye kalakya shakti pratama prabuddha prabodayatvam kila vishwanatha. So again, a little bit continuation of this previous stanza only. I just combined it, essentially saying that when that happens, there was absolutely nothing. Punar advitiye. There was no two other than you. Right? It means it's only you were there. There was no second person at the time when Brahma's night, Naimittika Pralaya night was going on. So when that morning is coming after the 1,000 Chaturyugas duration, which is the Kalpa at that night, when that happens, time wakes you up. Now, it doesn't mean time physically goes and wakes Bhagavan up. It just means that you then decide the next step of creation is ready to start. So you then trigger that process of creation, and then you also essentially wake up. Just means that you become more aware that things needs to start happening again, and the process of creation starts. Chatur yuganam cha Kalakya Shaktihi, put a F to join. Kalakya Shaktif Pratama Prabuddha, comma, Prabodayat Tvam Kila Vishwanatha. Again, the way to think about this also is, I'm just generalizing, right? In the family, if one person wakes up first, right, then that person has to wake everybody else up. The first one person only gets the alarm. That's what he's saying. When the time comes, there's nobody else. Only you, Bhagavan, has to wake up and then decide that the time has come, and then you have to then start doing all the work, right? So that's what he's saying. You first wake up, when the time comes, and then you then get everybody else to come out, we start as well. चतुर्युगानां च सहस्रमेवं त्वहि प्रसुप्ते पुनरद्वितीये कालाख्यशक्तिः प्रथमप्रबुद्धा प्राबोधय त्वां किल विश्वनाथ.
चतुर्युगानां च सहस्रमेवं त्वयि प्रसुप्ते पुनरद्वितीये कालाख्यशक्तिः प्रबुद्धा प्रबोधय त्वं किल विश्वनाथ.
Fourth line, pra sound, and then the last word Vishwanatha, not tha. Okay, just ends with just a tha.
Okay. चतुर्युगानां च सहस्रमेवं त्वयि प्रसुप्ते पुनरद्वितीये कालाख्यशक्तिः प्रथमप्रबुद्धा प्रबोधय त्वं किल विश्वनाथ.
Prabodh, fourth line,
प्राबोधय त्वं किल विश्वनाथ.
चतुर्युगानां च सहस्रमेवं त्वयि प्रसुप्ते पुनरद्वितीये कालाख्यशक्तिः प्रथमप्रबुद्धा प्राबोधयत्वं किल विश्वनाथ.
Prabodhayatvam. Stay on the fourth line, first word.
प्राबोधयत्वां किल विश्वनाथ. चतुर्युगानां च सहस्रमेवं त्वयि प्रसुप्ते पुनरद्वितीये कालाख्यशक्तिः प्रथमप्रबुद्धा प्राबोधयत्वां किल विश्वनाथ.
That's a nine. Vibudhya chatvam jalagarbhashayin vilokya lokan akhilan pralinan teshveva sukshmat mataya nijantastiteshu vishveshu dadata drishtim. So in the fifth chapter, when we are seeing the original creation of the cosmos, we saw when the Dvipararda, the full life of Brahma had got on the earth, Bhagavan resorts to this activity called as Ikshana, I said, which means he just sees, right? I mean, he doesn't physically see, he just says it's time, right? And then the whole process of creation starts. So similarly here, at the end of the Naimittika Pralaya, when Bhagavan wakes up, right, at the end of that alarm rings and he wakes up, he then sees that, okay, all these things are in me in a sukshmam form, right? Which means that I now need to see again, which means I now need to trigger the process of creation. So when this happens, like it is like you have paused the video game. Now somebody has to go press the play button again for it to start, or somebody has to press the button to turn on. So he says, okay, let me trigger that process right now, right? So that way here the way it is described is he's seeing that everything is in him, right? And then he says, I now need to let all of these things come out of me, right? So he says, okay, let me start doing that because everything is still stuck inside of me or everything is resting in me. So he then starts the process here. Vibudhya chatvam jala garbha shayin. Now it says you are it's just in you, you're reclining on water. The word water is used very, very loosely in all these things. The word water is used because it is just anything which has just not taken a proper manifested shape, right? It is just like we spoke about earlier, the prakriti, it's just just matter that is there. It has not formed anything else. So on that, you are just resting and then you decide to start it. Vibudhya chatvam jala garbhashayin, comma, Bilokya Lokan Akhilan, just breaking at that now. Lokan Akhilan Pralinan Teshveva Sukshmatmataya Nijantaha. So put a plus there. And then that Visarga will take a is sound. So nijantas, put a plus, stiteshu vishveshu dadata drishtim. So drishti, just to glance on it. Vibhudya chatvam jalagarbhashayin bilokya lokan akhilan pralinan teshveva sukshmatmataya nijantastitheshu vishveshu dadata drishtim.
विबुध्य चात्वं जलगर्भशायीन् विलोक्य लोकानखिलान् प्रलीनान् तेष्वेष सूक्ष्मात्मतया तेष्वेष तेष्वेव सूक्ष्मत्मतया निजा निजा
Nijantas.
निजान्तसृष्टिस्तु विश्वेषु ददता दृष्टिम्. Sorry,
Dadata drishtim.
ददात दृष्टिम्. विबुध्य चात्वं जलगर्भशायीन् विलोक्य लोकानखिलं प्रलीनान् तेष्वेव सूक्ष्मात्मतया निजान्तसृष्टिस्तु
Stiteshu.
स्थितेषु विश्वेषु ददात दृष्टिम्.
Yeah, the first line, Kalpana, vibudya cha tvam. You are saying cha, it's just cha. Okay.
विबुध्य च त्वं जलगर्भशायिन् विलोक्य लोकानखिलान् प्रलीनान् तेष्वेव सूक्ष्मात्मतया निजन्तस्थितेषु विश्वेषु ददात्तदृष्टिम् विबुध्य च त्वां जलगर्भशायिन् विलोक्य लोकानखिलान् प्रलीनान् तेष्वेव सूक्ष्मात्मतया निजान्तस्थितेषु विश्वेषु ददात दृष्टिम्.
That's it. ततस्त्वदीयादैनाभिरन्ध्रात् उदञ्चितं किञ्चन दिव्यपद्मं निलीननिःशेषपदार्थमाला संक्षेपरूपं मुकुलायमानम्. So here is where things that you might have seen in all the pictures or photos is going to come. So it says from your nabhi, right? From your nabhi randrat, from the middle of your nabhi, came a beautiful lotus bud, right? So we have to understand what they are trying to say here, right? So here, when you think of why is something coming from the nabhi, right? Because you all know, right? When the mother is carrying a baby, right? So at that time, the umbilical cord is connected to the mothers because that is the point from which is connecting the mother to the baby. So all creation, the connection between the creator and the creation happens as a connection to the nabhi. So similarly, when it says something is coming out of your nabhi, it means, so Bhagavan, Garbhodaka Vishnu, you are the creator. So just like how baby is connected to the mother's navel, similarly, the world which is coming out right now at the beginning of the day of Brahma is coming from your nabhi, right? Because that is the source from which things are going to come. That's why it says everything is gone into your stomach. Like I said, Bhagavan does not have a stomach into which everything is going, right? But it is all inside of you. It isn't coming out, and the nabhi is a reference there. Now, from this nabhi, it says everything that was dissolved, which was the bottom 10 worlds, all the souls which are there, everything that is there is resting in you in a seed form, right? That's what we said. It is inside of you, Bhagavan. That is coming out. How does any flower come out? Jasmine flower or a lotus flower. How does it first come out? It comes in the form of a bud, right? It comes in the form of a bud, and then the petals of it start opening up, and then the flower blossoms, right? So here the world is also described in that exact form, saying that everything that was inside of you is coming from your nabhi, because that is the connection point. It is coming in form of a divya padma. That's why you cannot literally take it as a lotus coming, right? It is a special lotus because it's the bud of everything that was there. It's coming in that shape, which is actually coming out of your nabhi. Because later on, when the universe is going to open up, everything that is going to be, which got destroyed, which went in, are going to again get created in a structured manner, just like how you open the petals of a lotus. So if you have a lotus bud in your puja, you will have to open one petal at a time. First, open all the outward petals. Then you open the next layer of the petals. Then you open the next layer of the petals. That's how you open up the lotus flower. So they're explaining this creation in that context of how the lotus flower is opened. So that's why it says, from your Nabhi comes a Divya Padmam, which is in the form of a bud, which has everything that was actually in the Sukshmam form stored inside of you. Now, all of that is going to get scattered around. All of that is going to spread around the universe. Tatas Twadiyadai Nabhi Randrat. So put the it at the end of that line, comma. Next line, if you have the word du, it becomes a u. Udanchitam kinchana divya padmam nilina nishesha padartha mala, put a plus, samkshepa rupam mukulaya manam. Tatastwadiyadayinabhirandhat udanchitam kinchana divya padmam nilina nishesha padartha mala samkshepa rupam mukulaya manam.
ततस्त्वदीयादयि नाभिरन् ततस्त्वदीयादि sorry
Tatastwadiyadai.
okay त्वदीयादयि नाभिरन्ध्रात् उडञ्चितं किञ्चन दिव्यपादम् निलीननिःशेषपदार्थमाला संक्षेप्तरूपं मुकुलायमानम्
Second line, last word, Divya Padmam.
दिव्यपद ततस्त्वदीयाधै नाभिरन्ध्रात् उडञ्चितं किञ्चन दिव्यपादम्
Padmam.
okay sorry दिव्यपद्मं निलीननिःशेषपदार्थमाला संक्षेपरूपं मुकुलायमानम्
ततस्त्वदीयादैनभिरन्ध्रात् उदञ्चितं किञ्चन दिव्यपद्मं नलिननिःशेषपदार्थतामला
Padarthamala.
पदार्थमाला संक्षेपरूपं मुकुलायमानं ततस्त्वदीयादैनभिरन्ध्रात् उदञ्चितं किञ्चिन दिव्यपद्मं निलीननिःशेषपदार्थमाला संक्षेपरूपं मुकुलायमानम्.
Little bit rush through the next three so we can finish it. So stanza 11. Just like stanza 11 is really talking about now that bud which has come, which has everything that is required for whatever got dissolved, right? It is coming up, and then step by step things starts getting created. Now again, here it is not referring to the beings being created, because the beings are going to be created by Brahma from Dasakam 10 only. So it is just talking about all the bottom 10 worlds we said got disappeared, right? All of that now starts coming one by one. They start getting re-established over a long period of time. It takes time for all of those to come again, right? So gradually, how like you open every petal of a lotus, the universe starts unfolding. And when the universe starts unfolding, what used to be darkness, because there is nothing before, right? Everything was in a state of sleep mode, right? Which is again parallel you can draw is your computer was in sleep mode. You turn your computer on, gradually all the processes start kicking one at a time, right? Windows follows a structure of which processes it runs first. So very similarly, everything is coming back into existence, right? But the Brahma is not yet there. Brahma is only going to come again in the next, but the core things are there, and you're waiting for all the things to start. That's what it's telling here. The universe starts to unfold, and all the darkness goes away, and things start coming back into place on the next day. Tade tadambhoruha. You cannot break that word. Tade tadambhoruha kudmalam te, comma, kalebarat toya pate prarudham bahir niritam paritaha, put the is to join, paritas spuradbihi, comma, swadhamabhir dvantamalam nyakrintat. Tade tadambhoruha kudmalam te kale barato yapathe prarudam bahir niritam paritas phuradbihi swadamabhir dvantamalam nyakrintat. Kalpana, just say one time.
Okay.
Finish this.
तदेतदं बहुरूह कुड्मलं ते कलेबरतोयपते प्ररूढं बहिर्निरीतं परितस्फुरद्भिः स्वधामभिर्ध्वान्तम् अलं न्यकृत्यतात्
Nyakrintat.
नकृन्त्यत्
Nyakrintat.
नकृन्तत्. Okay.
Boruha.
kudamalum te
Kudmalam te.
kudmalam te kale barato yapate prarudam bahirniritam paritasvarutbihi swadam madbirtvantamalam nakrintat
Fourth line. Swadhamabhir.
swadamabirtvantamalam nakrintat.
Stands at 12. So 12. So like when you all have seen the pictures of, Narayana lying, Vishnu lying, and then in waters, and then from his nabhi, a lotus is coming. The lotus is fully blossomed. On that fully blossomed lotus, Brahma is sitting, right? You might have all seen that. That's what they're describing here, saying that, remember what the bud was. The bud was everything that is there, which are dissolved, came in the form of a bud, right? It is a symbolic representation. And then the lotus unfolds. I said what that means is everything that was in sukshma forms becomes manifested as the various worlds and everything. Now again, everybody went into Brahma, and that Brahma went into this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From that Vishnu, the lotus comes. So who is the first person who has to come now again? It's the same Brahma who has to appear again, right? So that Brahma sitting on that lotus means that the world, the 14 worlds are again fully formed the next day of Brahma, and Brahma wakes up right now. So very simply, it is like the computer is started, all the processors are up and running, all the applications are open. You, who is the Brahma in this case, now can start accessing everything so you can do your work of creation. So that's the Brahma sitting on top of that lotus, which has come from the Nabi of Bhagavan. And now when you start, you have access to all the information that you had stored the previous day, right? So similarly, Brahma has all the tools available. What he has done the previous day is going to continue. So that's what it is. So from your power, from this, Brahma comes, and Brahma is sitting on top of that lotus, right? Which is he's sitting on top of that manifested universe so that he can actually begin his work now. That is the description which is put here. Samphulla patre nitaram vichitre, tasmin bhavat virya dhrite saroje sa padma janma vidiraviraasit, one word, swayam prabuddha kila veda rashihi. So Padma Janma means the one who's born from the lotus. So Brahma who's born from that lotus, which means the lotus had everything that was gone, including Brahma. So from that, the Brahma is coming again because he was inside of you. So that's why he's called Padma Janma, the one who is born from the lotus. Samphulla patre nitaram vichitre tasmin bhavat virya dhrite saroje sapadma janma vidira virasit swayam prabuddha kila veda rashihi.
सम्फुल्लपत्रे निरतं विचित्रे तस्मिन् भवद्वीर्यधृतसरोजे सपद्मजन्मा विधिराभिरासीत् स्वयं Swayam Prabhuddha Akilam Vedarashihi.
Yeah, that Prabuddha, Akila are two different words, but you have to say it together. So Swayam Prabuddha Akila.
Swayam Prabhuddha Akhila.
Yeah. And then the first line, Kalpana, Nitaram Vichitre.
Nitaram Vichitra. Okay, yeah, thank you.
सम्पूलपत्रे नितरां विचित्रे तस्मिन् भवद्वीर्यधृते सरोजे सपद्मजन्मा विराशित स्वयं प्रबुद्धाखिल वेदराशिः राशिः
Yes, stanza 13. Asmin Paratman Nanu Padmakalpe, comma, Twamittam, breaking at that ma, Twamittam Uttapita Padmayonihi Ananta Bhuma Mama Roga Rashim Nirundi, and then a comma. So put a plus after Roga Rashim, after Nirundi, put a comma. Vatalaya Vasa Vishnu. So I initially didn't say the meaning of it intentionally, because you all might have known about this stanza, right? So Mahaperivas, he promoted. That's why when you ask people, do you know Narayaneeyam? They say, oh, I know that one stanza, Asmin Paratman Anupadma Kalpe, right? So essentially what this is telling is, this we also call as Shweta Varaha Kalpa. But the Shweta Varaha has not happened yet, right? It's going to happen only later. So this kalpa before that is called as Padma Kalpa, because Brahma is coming in this kalpa, is come from the lotus, from the Nabi of Bhagavan. So in this Padma Kalpa, right, you, oh Bhagavan, you created the whole kalpa again. You are manifesting all these things again, and you're bringing this Brahma back again, right? You're creating this Brahma back again, who's going to go create everything. So if you're able to do all of those things, right? Mama Roga Rashim Nirundi. Please eradicate all the ailments I have also very quickly, because that is so insignificant for you. Because you created this entire world again, this beginning kalpa, you created Brahma and you created all of those things again, right? So it's a matter of saying that you are that source of creation of Bhagavan. You are the one who put it into action again. And in this Padma Kalpa, you brought Brahma back to life again. Similarly, all the internal problems and challenges, physical problems we are having, you please create positivity so it eradicates all the negative things and everything goes away for me also. So Vatalaya Vasa Vishnu is saying, oh Guru Arapa, please eradicate all of that. Asmin Paratman Nanu Padmakalpe Twamittamutapita Padmayonihi Ananta Bhuma Mamaro Garashim Nirundi Vatalaya Vasa Vishnu.
Asmin Paratmanu Nanu Asmin Paratmananu Padakalpe Twamittvamuttapita Padmayonihi Ananthabhuma Mamarogarashim Nirundi Vadalaya Vasa Vishnu.
First line, last word. Padmakalpe.
Padmakalpe.
अस्मिन् परात्मन् ननुपादकल्पे त्वमित्तमुत्थापितपद्मयोनिः अनन्तभूमा मम रोगराशिं निरुन्धि वातालयवास विष्णो.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namah. So it's important here that you join that Roga Rashim Nirundi. Okay, so Roga Rashim is all the diseases. Nirundi is eradicate. So that word has to come together. So you have to pause after the Nirundi and say, O Vathalaya Vasa Vishnu, O Guru Arapa, please eradicate my ailments which are there. And brings this Ashtam to an end. Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadibhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre punarurupurushartatmakam brahmatattvam tattavadbhati sakshat guru pavanapure hanta bhagyam jananam कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you all. See you next weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Rebecca.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.